and then I'll turn it right over to you, and you feel free to. 1 second. Okay, well, welcome everyone who's with us today. My name is Jill Johnson. I'm the Executive Director for ISQUALS, and we're very pleased today to have Urszula. Is it Wolski? Am I pronouncing that?
Wolski.
Wolski.
Yeah.
And she's going to do her presentation in a moment here. Since there's just a few of us, we're not so concerned about bandwidth, so if you'd like to show your face and turn on your video, that's fine. If you want to keep it off, that's totally fine. During the presentation, we do ask that you put yourself on mute, just so there's no background noise or anything like that going on while Urszula presents. And then at the end, we'll have time for question and answers. We always give us a space for that, about 15 minutes or so, depending on our time. In the interim, if you're watching and something comes up or a comment comes up, please use that chat bar. So if you want to just take your cursor down to the bottom, you'll see a little button that says chat. And then feel free to write in your question or comment if it pops in your head, and we'll address that at the end, or just keep it and we'll have a time at the end to address all of those questions and concerns. This was, again, a presentation for our conference that we were planning to have in Rotterdam this year. Unfortunately got canceled, so we're very pleased to be able to provide all of our presenters with many different options, and Urszula has chosen to do a webinar, so we're very grateful that she has done that. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and turn this over to you, Urszula. We'll make you the host, and you are ready to go.
Okay, thank you for that, and thank you for having me, and hi everybody. Okay, so just going to share my screen with you so I can share my PowerPoints. And so hopefully that should come up. Okay, there we go. So hopefully you can see that on the screen now. Okay, yep, thank you. Okay, so yeah, today I'm going to talk to you about a research that I had planned on actually starting by now, but with the COVID and everything, it's kind of been, the brakes have been put onto that, and I'm probably going to sort of retweak it a little bit so that I can then run it online. So yeah, so the project is looking at character strengths and participation in sport and or physical activity to promote positive aging. Okay, so the aim of research is to investigate whether in an intervention program that encourages those adults who participate in little to no activity, so defined as non-active, from the age of 40 plus to participate in regular sport and or physical activity in relation to their character strengths. So for example, in Public Health England, and I assume this could be similar in other countries as well, that participating in less than something like 30 minutes a week of moderate intensity physical activity, so where the heart rate increases slightly, where you might put on a little bit of a sweat. It doesn't have to be 30 minutes in one go. It could be, you know, short bursts of 10 minutes over the course of a week. So really that isn't, if you think about it, it's not really a huge amount. And then a survey by Sport England in 2019 found out that 1 in 5 of 40 to 60-year-olds were physically inactive. So looking at previous research, there is a lot that has been done on older adults, so over the 60s, over 70s, but really actually not that much that's been done on the middle age category, so 40 to 60-year-olds. And that's kind of the age group that I'm going to focus on. So little research between physical exercise, mental health and well-being, but even less so in association with character strengths. So I want to focus on looking at the relationship between character strengths, sport and physical activity, and positive aging. So previous research has shown that being active in a variety of social and leisure activities can help increase positive well-being. Can also help in the prevention of mental illness such as depression and dementia and Alzheimer's. But not just that, it can also help to create a feeling of happiness known as eudaimonic happiness. So as opposed to hedonistic happiness, where that could just be immediate gratification, so purchasing of new clothes or some other kind of goods. That just gives you that kind of short-term gratification, where it's not long lasting. Something just that's it's nice for a few times and then that's it. But eudaimonic happiness, on the other hand, gives that individual that kind of more meaningful purpose in life and tends to be longer term. And so it has been associated as well that doing things like sport or physical activity then can help promote happiness and just a general overall well-being over time. It's even when times aren't going so well, times aren't so good, you can have little moments of downness, but generally overall you're still feeling relatively happy. On the other hand, then, little physical activity can lead to higher risks of mortality and health problems such as obesity in older adults. So there are a number of reasons that are put forward by people for not participating. The reason for my focus for 40 to 60-year-olds are most people are in employment and have children and so have less time. Whereas once you reach retirement age, then you do have that extra leisure time available to you. So reasons could be, most people think in terms of being active, of just going to the gym. There's so much more than just the gym that you can do. And I will share with you later on one of my passions. So people have busy lives, or they don't identify what they enjoy doing, and so don't perhaps think they will enjoy it, or don't even know how to get started. So not knowing what to do, they might be conscious of their body image, feel that they don't have the skills to do something. Perhaps, they thought, perhaps I could take up a new sport like tennis, but then I don't know how to play. Perhaps I'm too old to play. And so there's this kind of reluctance to try something new or to do something about it. So research has shown that actually improving well-being for older people is possible for those who find physical activities enjoyable. But the question is how do you identify what is enjoyable? So looking at positive aging then in relation to sport and physical activity, because again it could equally apply to leisure activities as well. My focus is on sport and physical activity, is to identify what you enjoy doing through what's known as your character strengths. And I'll talk about those in just a moment. So knowing what your character strengths are, something that's unique and authentic to you, can help you identify what you enjoy doing. And then when you enjoy doing something, it can help increase flow. So you're doing an activity that you completely lose track of time in, for example. You could say that you're in flow. In sport, this is likened to being in the zone when you're maybe playing tennis, or you're doing something in terms of athletics. You're so focused and concentrated that you just forget about anything else. So first of all, then, talking about flow. Okay, so it's a state of consciousness that we get into when we are completely absorbed in what we're doing. So time can either seem to slow down or speed up. However, what is important is then to find a balance between those skills and challenges. So if there's something that is involving too much skill, that the person can't do it for whatever reason, then that could lead to anxiety and therefore a loss of interest, non-participation, no longer wishing to participate in that activity. But then again, if something is not challenging enough, then that can lead to boredom. So again, resulting in interest and non-participation. So we need to find a balance between skills and challenges in order to participate and keep participating in something that we enjoy doing. And then therefore this can lead to a term developed by Jackson and Csikszentmihalyi. This can lead to flow. Again, so that's all very well. So we might know of some activities that we enjoy doing. We already participate in those activities. But again, what about other activities? Again, how would we know? How could we identify what we enjoy doing? And so then to do this, we can do this through identifying what our character strengths are. And I would say, with my experience of learning about character strengths and talking to other people, is that not many people actually know about their character strengths, or would even think what their character strengths were. So these are something that's different to what can be seen as talents or skills. So Linley identifies character strengths as a pre-existing capacity for a particular way of behaving, thinking, or feeling. Okay, something that is authentic and energizing and enables optimal functioning, optimal development and performance. So when you're using your strengths, you're at your best. You feel more engaged, more alive, and therefore more in flow. So the strengths that I will focus on, the strengths that I've looked at, are known as the VIA classification of character strengths. So I don't know if this is something that you have come across, but it's well worth having a look. So these were developed by Christopher Peterson and Martin Seligman. So the work of Martin Seligman was in part a response to traditional psychology, which was often seen as focusing on weaknesses of people, what's wrong with people, illnesses, rather than actually following on positive, on the what is positive, what is good in people. And so out of this developed a field called positive psychology. They developed their character strengths classification doing research, which included literature searches on strengths and virtues that was across different cultures and different historical periods. So they developed the 24 character strengths, which are clustered under 6 broad headings, which are known as virtues. Okay, so I know it's quite small. I have tried to make it quite big on the screen, but if you do go to the website and have a look, you can see that each of different types of strengths are clustered under 6 different virtues. And so for most people, you would have strengths or several strengths in each of those virtues, because they kind of link together. So, to give you an example, if I share my strengths with you, I'm quite happy to do that. If I take the top 5, I have love of learning, curiosity, fairness, and hope. So if I take love, love of learning and curiosity both appear in the virtue of wisdom and knowledge. And so love comes under humanity. And the thing to point out is all these, so if I've taken my top 5, those are seen as my signature strengths. Those are the most unique to me. So if you were to take the survey, which lasts around 15 minutes, you would, and it's free, so you can get a report which will identify what your top strengths are. So the ones that feature near the top are seen as your signature strengths. So those are the ones that are most natural to you. And then falling down lower down the list are perhaps the ones that you don't use as most often, but still are equally important. And there may be different times where you need to draw on something that wouldn't naturally occur to you on a daily basis. So for example, right now doing this live, I'm having to draw on courage, which doesn't even feature in my top 10. If you're interested or curious, that could be one of your strengths. It's really worth having a look at that if it's not something you're already familiar with. So the idea is then that drawing on, so people identifying their character strengths would then be able to associate what it is that they might enjoy doing in terms of physical activity. So for example, if one of their strengths is teamwork, then they may enjoy doing a team sport, okay? Or if they perhaps like, or they are, have curiosity, they might understand, might be interested in how the body works, or love of learning as well. How does the body work? How if I do this activity, is it going to have an effect on me? So my idea is that then by identifying their character strengths, then they could decide or choose to engage in a particular activity, which is something that they're most likely to be able to want to engage with and keep participating in. So here I thought I would share with you one of my passions. Then this is really something that has kept me going through COVID. I have an allotment and also a garden with a rather large patio, and as my other half has called it, a jungle of tomato plants. So I think in early lockdown, when we weren't really allowed out, I did sow a lot of tomatoes. So here perhaps you can see that my character strengths are love, so nurturing the plants, looking after them. Oh, I've pressed the button too quickly. Sorry, just bear with me. So again, curiosity, how things grow, how to maintain them, look after them, and the thing is, I could talk to you about my strengths, but those strengths that aren't at the top of the list for me, that are lower down, I probably can't give you as much information about that than somebody who has those strengths can. So the idea with this is people will be able to automatically identify what is unique to them and then draw on those strengths. So yeah, hope you like the photo. So the idea then for the actual design itself is to look at the question, to what extent does being active increase levels of well-being and eudaimonic happiness? Okay, so this is a question that has been looked at before, but again, as I said, the focus that I want to look at is how do people identify what they want to enjoy doing, and therefore identifying what their character strengths in order to do this. So using a sample of 10 people, so adults that have been that have self-identified as non-active and aged between 40 and 60. That's the group that I want to focus on. By all means, it could be done with different age groups, but because little research had looked at this age group, it was a group that I wanted to focus on, and it's also a group that I fall into as well. So then each participant would take the strengths assessment in order to identify what their top strengths are. And then based on what their strengths are, to identify some kind of sport or physical activity. It could be one, it could be several activities they choose, and then to participate over the course of 8 weeks for an absolute minimum of once a week, for a minimum of 30 minutes a week. But I would like to encourage slightly more if possible. But of course, looking at the reasons that people have for not participating is lack of time, for example. It might be that I encourage them to try and do something for 10 minutes a day. And then in order to help them as well, I would ask them to keep a journal. So it could be a paper journal or an electronic journal, in order for them to record their activities and thoughts and feelings when they are doing these activities, but how they feel about what they're doing. Are they enjoying it? They're not, what they find enjoyable, what they don't find enjoyable, and so on. And then the idea was also to have a Facebook group going, which would act as a support group, so they could meet and discuss with each other and have weekly discussions, and I would have been involved in that. So initially I was going to start this with a small sample and do it at the local level, but because of COVID, I'm having to rethink that. And so I think I'm going to probably run this online, and then maybe I could have a larger sample as well. And then at the start, of the 8 weeks, halfway through and at the end, I will ask participants to complete a well-being and satisfaction with life scale. And then finally, after the 8 weeks, so after the program, then I also have a semi-structured interview with each of the participants, asking them questions about their reasons for not participating in any activity previously, and to whether this has changed and to what extent it has changed over the 8 weeks. So analysis would take the form of a mixed methods approach. So taking the scores from the well-being and satisfaction with life scales, and then comparing the data from the journal. So participants will be informed about their, I would like to see this data. So if there's anything that they don't particularly want to share, then either they could write separately or exclude it. So all participants will be fully informed at the start of what is expected of them throughout the 8 weeks. And then data from the interviews will be analysed using thematic analysis, and then all data will be analysed using MaxQDA, which is a software designed to assist with a mixed methods approach. So what am I hoping for some of the possible outcomes from the research? Is that the hope is that this would encourage those that are less active to become more active. So to realise what that they enjoy doing as a result of their character strengths, and therefore to encourage them to participate in some kind of activity on a regular basis, and then they would continue doing so after the 8 weeks. And as a result, they would, increase their physical and mental health, and thus therefore promote positive aging. So if research has shown that we might participate on a regular basis in activity when we're younger, and then once we reach a certain age, when we have children, when we're working, life gets busy, life gets hectic, we might have a drop in participation, and then participation increases again in retirement. But by the time you get to retirement age, you'll have had all those years of possible inactivity, and in order to promote positive aging moving forward, moving on in the lifespan, it needs to be started earlier. So again, moving back to one of my passions of gardening, of growing my own vegetables. So I have an allotment. There's many benefits. So physical benefits, so weight loss, improving the body, the posture, flexibility, creating a stronger immune system, and so on. And of course, the joys of growing your own vegetables, eating fresh produce that hasn't come from a long distance, that has a very low carbon footprint, and the enjoyment that can come with it, which can then also improve well-being and happiness. So the idea then is to take the sample of 10 people and then carry on with further research to repeat the design with other groups. So then I end up with several samples, and then I can compare the data from each group, and as a result hope to have a better understanding of our character strengths, because I'm still learning about mine, and how we can use our strengths in our daily lives, in what we do, and as a result of that to lead a happier and more fulfilling life. Okay, so there's some references on this slide here, and some contact details if you wish to get in touch. Usual sort of email address. So I post my research on social media as well, on the various platforms. I've recently joined Twitter as well, so I'm still kind of learning how to use that. I know, a bit of a laggard there. Yeah, so that kind of brings me to the end. Does anybody have any questions?
That was great. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I certainly can relate to this, because for me, I find that physical activity and sports is therapeutic, and it's been challenging in this time for sure.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
where I live, it's very, very hot in the summertime. I live in Arizona in the United States, and it's 115 degrees Fahrenheit, which I guess is 45 degrees Celsius. So it's really challenging to be physically active, especially if gyms are closed and you can't go outside.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Well, yeah, so I put a sort of the brakes onto this research, and then I started doing other research looking at physical activity during lockdown. And my research has found so far that, yeah, the number of people doing online activities has increased, which is kind of what you'd expect. So I do wonder if that's something that will actually still continue after, when lockdown eases. So
it'll be interesting to see your results, and hopefully you can come to our conference next year and present what
yeah, I hope so. I hope so. Yeah, I should have results by then. Yeah, definitely. So
well, we have 4 participants who stayed with us. So if any of you have any questions, you can either put it in the chat bar down below, or just feel free to unmute yourself or show your
yeah,
video.
I'll switch your video on. It was really hard talking to a computer. It just felt so not real.
Well, we were all listening and engaged.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Michael. Hi, Michael.
Hello, how are you? Thanks very much. I enjoyed the presentation.
Thank you.
A couple of comments, actually. I've worked on positive aging and sports and that kind of stuff for quite a long time.
Okay.
I'm officially retired, but I'm still carrying on researching and so on and so forth. But a couple of things, actually, that I want to mention. First of all, about when you talked about the well-being scales that you're going to use, which ones are you going to use?
Well, at the moment, one of the ones that I have for my questionnaire that I'm running through another bit of research is I've just got the straightforward on a scale of 1 to 10. How would you rate your happiness or well-being right now? There are a number of scales that I know that can be used. So the happiness scale, I think Sonia Lubomirsky has one.
Yeah, yeah.
I think Oxford has one as well. Is it called the Oxford Wellbeing Scale? So yeah, I'm not at this point totally sure which ones I would go with yet.
Okay.
Whether I might even actually devise one myself, I don't know.
Okay. The reason I'm asking actually was that we did a lot of research on this in previous years, and we had one called the Munch, which is the Memorial University of Newfoundland Scale of Happiness.
Okay.
But we did a lot more of the background research on some of the artifacts which can affect those the scores on that scale. Social desirability, response bias, and so on and so forth. But one of the things that we found in the earlier research, which has surprised us, when we started, the question we were asking was, what kinds of things make older people happier? We were dealing with a senior population.
Yeah.
What we found was that happiness, as measured by our measure and by other measures, it tends to be incredibly stable over time. And pretty much everybody has found the similar kinds of things. And if you have a multi-item scale, then the stability is higher. If you have a single item scale, then not surprisingly, the reliability is lower and the stability is lower. Virtually every measure of stability tends to be lower. But what's really, really interesting with this is really a couple of things. And I'm just mentioning this because I wouldn't expect you to find much change on those kinds of measures. Certainly over a period of 8 weeks. Lubomirsky and others have found what we would love to have found, but we didn't, which was that about half the variance on virtually any quality of life measure, happiness scales, life satisfaction scales, measures called quality of life measures, about half the variability in twin studies can be accounted for by heredity. The practical implication of that is, in other words, identical twins are far closer than fraternal twins. And that's true whether the twins are reared apart, reared together, and so on. And it's true of twin pairs over 60 and twin pairs under 10, if I think it was the youngest study that I remember. And virtually everyone has come out with that figure of 50% variability is to do with heredity. And, you know, various proportions of the other is to do with various things. But it's a little difficult, I think, and also that kind of research on the well-being, and I can go back about 5 or 7 years now. The eudemic well-being measures correlate very, very highly with the more traditional happiness measures, more traditional life satisfaction measures, and even mood measures. You know, the correlations are really quite high. You know, so I don't think that the eudemic measures are in themselves, or the ones that were available 5 years back, are measuring a great deal that's much different from the earlier measures of happiness and life satisfaction. You know, so I think it's kind of you know, a think about this. I can send you some literature on this if you're interested, actually. And I made a quick photo of your email address, so I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
But it's something to be aware of. And also, with an 8-week program, it's not that much. It's a little short interval to get major benefits through increased physical activity, unless you have a pretty a very, very low activity population at the start.
Well, that is the idea. I mean, but I have run another intervention which did last 8 weeks and was looking at change, and actually it did find that change did happen over the 8 weeks, because I think the key trigger here is people not knowing what it is that they might enjoy. And then when they start learning about their strengths, and which is learning about themselves, then that kind of makes a change. And I agree with you on the scales. So that's why I'm still kind of not totally certain with what I'm going to do with that yet. And so I really do appreciate if you are able to send anything.
Sure,
and it's great to meet somebody else who is researching in this area, so I can certainly learn from you. And and that's also my reason for having a mixed methods approach. So a lot of the information will also come from the interview data as well.
Right. Just kind of one more comment on just on what you've said, if that's okay. When you're talking about the learning of the strengths and the and the exercise effects, in your designs, you might want to control for both of these. You know, you've got 2 interventions in a sense. One is the learning about the strengths, or they have 2 interventions. One's the learning of the strengths, which could have an effect on the well-being. And 2 is the exercise program. You know, in your design, you're going to have to find some way to separate these 2 things out. Yeah.
Well, it'll be in part an evaluation as well of the strengths and the strengths literature. So.
Sure.
Because I think even the people that are devised, so the VIA Institute, are still sort of talking about how they're still learning about strengths and things like that. So I think it's an ongoing process. But, you know, I really thank you and appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael. Just a reminder, I will be sending a follow-up email at the end with Urszula's contact information and this presentation, as well as all the websites she referenced. So hopefully you can all stay in touch. This is a great connection we're having. And I see Peggy. Hi, Peggy. And Jose is there. If either of you have questions, feel free to unmute yourself and feel free to ask.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Urszula, for your very interesting presentation. What I would like to say you is that I realized that being active, it increases physical and mental health. I realized all that in my particular experience. As an old man, and now emeritus professor in my university, I've been practicing all my life physical and mental exercises, physical, mental, and mental activities. But I realize also that I have to enjoy both physical and mental. For example, mental activities, in fact, the more positive mental activities for me are the activities that I really like, activities for which I have really passion. And the same occurs with the kind of sports I choose. For example, I've been playing tennis, and I've been playing tennis in tournaments and in grass courts. I've never been a first-class player, but I enjoy a lot playing tennis. Now that I know I am not able to play tennis in tournaments because some physical problems, but at my age, I don't take any pill at all.
Yeah.
And
that's
also,
amazing.
And I practice every day physical exercise. Now, I am very concerned because me living in Barcelona, because the coronavirus, I have to be at home. My gym is closed. My tennis club is not. It's very difficult to practice any sport there, and the only thing I can do is just to jogging or walking in the streets. But I try to walk 5 kilometers every day in the streets with my mask, and that's for me is awful because that deteriorates a little bit my physical strength and my muscles. But I work all day with mental exercise, especially in the subjects that I particularly love. That's why in the world there are rich people and poor people, which are the causes. Why some nations fail and others succeed, which are the causes of poverty, prosperity. These are the key subjects I really love. So in summary, I fully agree with what you have said at the conclusions of your research. And I would like you, apart from congratulating you for your presentation, I would like to use where I will find this VIA classification, where I can find this classification, because I am
it's online. So I think if the slides are shared, then there is a link on there, or I can send you a link for that. But yeah, it's a survey that you can take for free and then get a report. That there is also a paid for service, more complicated report, but there is a free one.
In order to evaluate the character, the strength character. Yeah. Thank you very much for.
Okay, well, thank you. And it's lovely hearing about your story, and I'm glad that you're getting out and having a walk, and also it's important, yeah, to keep the mind busy as well. So that's really good to hear. Thank you.
Thank you, Jose. And Peggy, if you have a question, feel free.
Yeah. Thank you for the presentation. It was really nice listening to it because it really connected a lot of things what I'm doing at the moment. But I'm just at the beginning of this research. In my institute, we had something like a corona overview of the relationship between physical activity and mental health. So it's quite interesting that you also have literature which I maybe could use. And even more of a coincidence was that yesterday, I don't know why, but I took the VIA questionnaire. Really, I mean, chances are sometimes funny. But I was wondering, because my top number one was what was it again? Beauty appreciation of beauty.
Beauty and excellence.
Yeah, and I was wondering if I have that as my top one. I was wondering how could I translate this character strength into something of sports or physical activity. I don't immediately see the link, for example. So that was a question. How would you proceed if people know their character strengths, whether they're always applicable in terms of physical activity or sports? And maybe you told it in the beginning, but I missed it. How did you select the 10 people, or are you going to select the 10 people?
I've yet to select them. I had planned to run this research earlier, but COVID put a halt to it, and I was going to select people, so locally, so people I know, or through people that I know, so a bit of a purposeful or snowball sample that I know do not participate in activities. So for example, I know a parent with several children but very rarely has time to do anything. So what is those kind of people that want to try and encourage to do something, even if it's on a small basis, 10 minutes a day, of what in effect is me time. So yeah, so that's the idea, but I'm going to have to sort of rethink that slightly because of COVID. So again, that'll probably be through using a snowball online sample, so to recruit people. But what it means is, because I'm doing it online, it doesn't have to stay local. It could be global, which would be really exciting. And then obviously, and then that would tie in with what people can do because of COVID. Yeah. But in terms of your character strength, I just think that's an amazing one to have as your top one. And to me, when you were talking about that, that would immediately, I would say, go outside, be with nature, appreciate. You know, I don't know where you are in the world.
Oh, in the Netherlands.
Okay, so your summer's not too dissimilar to ours then, probably. I would say go outside, and you know, we've got a lovely sunny day right now, which once I'm finished here, I'm out on my allotment. And just look at the trees and how green they are. You would be able to appreciate that, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And excellent in that. And then so just go for a walk.
I mean, it's funny, but in 45 minutes, a friend of mine will pick me up and we go for a 1-hour walk in the neighborhood.
Perfect. So revel, is that the right word, in your strength, and then really think about it when you're out walking, and take time to pause and reflect, or have a chat with your friend. And yeah.
But how I mean, this is of course for me, but how would other people make the translation? Would you help them with it?
Yeah, I would guide them. So until I knew what their strengths were, then I could help to guide them. But it's interesting because I think when I did something similar, so I looked at using character strengths and mindfulness for playing tennis. So I think we have a tennis player here. How could you use your character strengths in playing the game? And so people, somebody who had creativity and love and kindness as a strength, kind of automatically knew what they would do when I asked them to explore their strengths. So the first thing to do is you took the test yesterday, the survey yesterday. So you need to sort of have time to work with those and identify those. And it will, if you've lost mute. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Oh, okay.
I can hear you.
Oh, okay. You're gone though.
Maybe. We can't hear you, Peggy. I'm sorry. Maybe something went out with her computer.
Oh, get in touch with me, okay? Get in touch with me and we can chat. We can have a separate, another chat. But yeah, I don't know if you can still hear me. But yeah, so because you only learnt about your strengths yesterday, did you have any idea that your top strength might have been your strength? Was that a surprise to you, or just nod or say yes? Or it's difficult, isn't it? Okay, I think I would go out when you go out with your walk later with your friend. just take in the nature of the environment, and you will understand that your top strength is unique to you. You will see that how you're able to appreciate that. But feel free to get in touch with me to chat, because I can't hear you, so we can't really have a two-way conversation here. Okay.
We see you talking, Peggy, but we can't hear you. So sorry. But you're not muted, but we just can't hear you.
Fine. Thank you very much, and have been very interesting session.
Thank you.
Yes, this was wonderful. Thank you so much. I know Nella is still with us if you had a question. Otherwise, as I said, we've recorded this and we'll be sending out the follow-up email with Urszula's contact information and all those details. And Urszula, if you wouldn't mind sending me your presentation and the website that you referenced regarding the character strengths. And also you have a survey going on right now. So if you wouldn't mind, if I could also post that as well in our follow-up email, and hopefully some of these folks can participate in that survey.
And share, please share.
Definitely share. Well, this was really fabulous. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for our participants for taking the time. And also to give your valuable feedback to Urszula. She's brand new to ISQUAL, so we're so glad that you found us, and hopefully.
Yeah, I'm glad I found you. Thank you.
Good. Well, and we look forward to hopefully seeing your results next year at our conference in Vermont, if you can make it.
Yeah. No, that's already in my calendar. So.
Wonderful. Well, without anyone else having any comments, we'll go ahead and end the meeting. And again, thank you so much. And we look forward to being in touch with all of you. So thank you all, and we wish you all the best.
Yeah.
Stay well.
Thank you. Stay safe and well, everybody.
You too. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.